wrong? You think people are going to like, I'm going to go in my backyard and shoot down a Cessna?
It's like the second paragraph right
All right, so I started it, so.
You can edit it out, right?
Well,
Yeah,
this
but
is going live, so
live,
whenever you
so-
want to begin.
We're live?
Yeah, we're live now.
Live from New York. No, no.
there.
That's copyrighted. Or something.
Now I get the death threat from NBC.
How many people do we have watching the recordings? We have like 2
Us.
people.
And we'll watch
Yeah.
it.
Well, the recorded part,
We had 8 viewers during the show.
well, it's
Yeah,
too-
but I don't think that many people have gone and watched the segment 6 videos.
not that many, I don't think.
Yeah.
Under 100, but the views do go up, you know, as it's still there.
Over time. Right?
Yeah,
Sure.
that's not instant, but
Okay, go ahead and start.
Right,
Except
sorry.
you don't know how much you're going to talk about.
Welcome to segment 6, where we're not exactly certain what we talk about. We cover stuff that we didn't have time to cover on the show, and we were struggling a little bit to try and decide what exactly we're going to call this segment 6. And I think maybe the answer is surveillance, government surveillance, triggered by an article, the title of which was FBI Behind Mysterious Surveillance Aircraft Over U.S. Cities. And in the past 30 days, was it? They did, how many cities? It was
Recent 30-day period, 30 cities and 11 states.
30 cities and 11 states across the country. They've flown their Cessnas, their single-engine Cessnas. I think it's a 210, looks like one. That's irrelevant. The first question I have is, why does the FBI have an Air Force?
Well, it's not irrelevant if you see a mysterious plane circling over your neighborhood, which is what they're
Which
describing.
is what they're talking about,
Right.
right?
If you see a Cessna 210 circling over your neighborhood, it might be the FBI surveilling you.
Or he could be watching the black SUV that parked out in front of my house with the tinted windows, looking at me through binoculars.
They could be talking to each other.
Now you just raised my threat level. 2 colors.
I think they're sharing information. The guy in the SUV saying, "This is what I see. What do you see?" And then the guy in the airplane.
I see a thermal image of a guy running around in his house collecting metal objects.
Load and make ready.
I have no idea what that SUV was about. That was very bizarre.
Did you
But,
say you saw it again?
well, I saw it pass by. Saw it pass
Plate
by.
number?
No,
It probably doesn't have plates. That's highly suspicious.
yeah.
I'm just saying.
It was very freaky. After all of for probably the better part of 2.5 years, I've joked about, I've said this for literally a lot. There's a black SUV with tinted windows parked in front of my house 24 hours a day, jokingly, just joking. And then I go out one day, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks
Oh,
ago,
it was a little longer than that, but yeah.
and he's there.
Yeah.
He's like 2 houses south of me, across the street. I look in the front windshield. He's holding binoculars and he's looking in my direction.
It's our buddy from Crete.
That was a possibility. Could be. You never know. Maybe he works for them. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, to make it
You never know.
weirder, I get in my car and I look up there at him, and he's like that at me. I think I'm listening to my radio show too much. Okay, that's what crosses
I'm
my
getting
mind.
into my own head.
Exactly. I'm starting to believe all this stuff. So I get in my car and I drive up the street, and it's bothering. It's just gnawing at me. So I decide I'm going to come up behind him. So I go all the way around, right? I have to go it's a couple of miles to get all the way around. Yeah, it's not just a simple block. To come up behind him, he's gone. He apparently left as soon as I did. And now the other day, I saw him go by slowly. I couldn't tell if he was looking at me or not because he's got tinted windows. But it was, I'm sure it's the same SUV.
It's like one time I was speaking to someone who told me he worked for DHS, Department of Homeland Security. And then like a week or 2 after that, there was an unmarked car parked in my neighbor's driveway. And as soon as I came out and like looked at them, they peeled out and drove off. So same thing, like it made me really, really uncomfortable that I was being surveilled.
they don't just use SUVs though. They use a lot of Dodge Caravans.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how I know that.
The Naperville Narcotics Unit has a white Honda Odyssey and a bunch of other just random assorted minivans.
A lot of them are confiscated.
Yeah, I know that about another branch of federal law enforcement too.
But it's
They
free.
use random vehicles so that they blend in.
Yeah,
It's still dark because they can offset the window tints. The window tint will look a little more odd. You know, if you have a white vehicle, for
Right.
example, it would stand
Yeah.
out more to you.
Right. Yeah.
So now there's airplanes flying over. They don't tell us why. And the most interesting thing about this, and you make this point, Brian, is they're not hiding it, and yet
And they say it's not a secret.
they say it's not a secret, and yet they have 13 fake front companies that they list these airplanes to, so no one will know that they're FBI airplanes. That's not secret,
Yeah.
and they don't want
Why not just register them to the FBI if it's not a secret?
and they don't want the Associated Press to reveal the names of the fake companies because they have to change them. That
Right.
seems to be.
And they
pretty
did that. They mentioned 4 of them, so now they have to replace
Now they got to replace it.
4 of their fake.
I want to go home being.
I wonder how many tax dollars are going to be spent on that.
Oh,
A few,
yeah.
I'm sure. A few.
I'm gonna tell you, the cheapest part of an airplane is buying it. That's when it gets expensive, really expensive. So, and even a small plane like that is not cheap to operate, and you're paying for it. I was telling Gretchen earlier today about surveillance. The military satellites can zoom down on a crowd and literally pick out a face and run facial recognition through it.
Look at the Google, what we can do with that. Just
Google Earth.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But they can do that for a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
I actually talked to someone that's supposed to work for the CIA years ago that was talking about basically did satellite surveillance and you can zoom in on this stuff and just see it. This was years ago, he's an older guy, so you know.
It's been something they've been doing for a long time. They just, Patriot Act, they canned it finally, and everybody goes, oh,
Oh,
my God,
good.
and replaced it
Yeah.
with, what do they call it? The
Freedom.
Freedom Act.
Patriot Act on steroids is
Which,
what it is.
does, it's really funny because it's a joke, except it's not.
Right.
They go, Patriot Act was wrong because it was illegal wiretapping. You can't do that, it's against the
The
law.
government was not supposed to collect all that data.
Right.
We're not supposed to be
It's
data
wrong,
collecting.
it's bad.
They're like, okay. the
Now we create a
telecom
new
companies
act
have to do
that
it.
makes it legal. So they're still doing the same thing. It's just they get the phone companies doing it for them, and they have the right to contact the phone company and say, give me the material.
Mhm.
Well, how's that different? They're saving on storage space.
Yeah, it's just cost cutting.
Everything we do, email, phone conversations, flying overhead, not taking pictures, I don't know. Where it's, am I getting paranoid here?
Yeah,
No,
it says
No.
that these planes, they have unusual antennas under the fuselage and a camera on the left side. And they use technology that mimics cell phone towers, and it gets phones to reveal basic subscriber information. So they ping the phone so that it will send back information about whose phone it is.
Are they gonna pay my bill? What are they
Yeah,
gonna do with
I wish.
subscriber information? Let's change them from Words with Friends to another game? I mean, what are they doing?
Well, I think they're probably looking. That's probably what they're doing, my guess. They're looking for someone specific would be my guess.
And I don't know if you noticed, but iPhones track your location. They marked it
You can
as
turn it off though.
they can, but a lot of people didn't know that. It's supposedly learning your locations to make navigation and all that
Yeah,
easier,
right.
but
Blah, blah,
Right,
blah.
yeah.
Sure.
well, it's-
Now, here's an interesting thing that happened last week. Remember how it was in all the papers that the feds were saying to the OEMs, the manufacturers of iPhone and all that, we want a back door, okay? We want a back door into all these devices. And when they balked at that, then they started on the litany, there should be no encryption at all.
Yeah, then just don't encrypt.
No
it all.
encryption, okay? And of course, they balk at that. Now, the Chinese apparently hacked into the US computer system. Did you read this? The federal computer system, and got all federal employees' data. And they're going, we need more encryption on these things. We need more encryption.
14 million employees. The number originally started off as like 3 or 4 million, and then it went up to 14 million once they found out the magnitude.
Now suddenly they're going, we need more encryption.
That's always been the biggest knock against our country as a whole, is their cybersecurity is a joke.
It
The
is.
biggest thing that's stopping people from doing it is the force of the military. But that's the Chinese did it under
The
our
Chinese
noses.
could care less.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it's nuts.
our infrastructure in terms of cybersecurity is an absolute joke.
It worries me that they might convince manufacturers to put backdoors in all these devices. Because we're talking about invasion of privacy. It says right in here that the FBI does not consider flying over your home and videotaping you a violation of anyone's privacy. Now, it is a fact that you can take pictures from the street. But where the line is you can't go on somebody's property. You can't, like, I can't walk up to your window and videotape you through the window. But if standing on a public sidewalk, I can see through your window, I can videotape you. I can audio tape you.
Well, it's not just the government. Google does that. You drive by with a
Well,
little car.
and that's it. They could drive by this little car with a camera and stuff, and they're taking. If
And
it's
also those, no, I haven't, but, and also those private companies that are videotaping out the license.
with the license plate stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody's like collecting data.
Yeah, it's very disturbing. It's very, very disturbing. Actually, you know, it actually puts me in mind of a conversation I had with a friend of mine this week, and she was giving me a hard time about a legislative issue that's coming before the Will County Board, and her literal words were, "You have to do something about this." And I said, "What do you want me to do?" And she was basically saying I needed to give my constituents more access to me, that I needed to, like, you know, pick up the, you know, I needed to answer their phone calls and things like that. And I said, there's a reason why I got a separate cell phone number and a PO box when I got elected. And this is what we're talking about. I mean, it's not so much that I'm afraid of my constituents. I'm afraid of, you know, I'm afraid of, like, the possibilities.
You never know.
Of, I don't want people to know where I live, and I don't
Another
want,
Harvey Milk.
right, exactly. I just don't want people to know where I live. I don't want to be that easy to find.
No, I agree. Unfortunately, and easy to find. I don't know. Maybe you have any other pithy thoughts on the subject? It's not as if we solved anything.
Yeah, I was going to say, does anybody have any ideas of how we can be safer?
Learn to shoot shotgun and be like pulling tramp.
Oh,
Oh,
that's true. There was the guy that had that video about
Yeah,
that. About someone was spying on him, I think, with a drone.
Yeah, he shot it.
Shot it, and then supposedly they're making up saying, "Oh no, he was doing that himself or whatever." I don't
There
know
was,
the story,
did
but-
you, in Colorado, you can buy a drone hunting permit.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
Yeah,
I think it's just
those are
hysterical. Yeah, that's one way to deal with it.
I think it'd be great.
Yeah, a little harder to shoot down a Cessna.
I was
If
like,
it comes on your property, does hovering on your property count?
No, the government controls air.
Of course,
You don't control
you gotta
it.
consider the laws, so you can't just discharge a fire.
well, I was going to
Urban
say,
areas,
you're going to get charged with an negligent discharge.
You have to worry
If you've
about it.
got neighbors.
If you're in the country, you
Right,
can shoot. I don't think you can shoot aircraft. That's the law against that.
right.
Federal law. There's a federal law against being on the ground and shining a laser.
Laser, yeah.
Right,
If you're shooting a shotgun at them, I'm pretty sure there's something that covers that.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Okay, well, not that we solved anything, but we had a pithy discussion on the subject. Maybe in the future we ought to plan how we can solve stuff.
There you go.
Staff that.
Rant on you.
All right.
Intern guys going to staff how we can solve stuff. It can't involve,
Let's ask the 20-year-old to solve
Yeah.
the nation's
Hey, he's
problems.
the future.
solutions cannot involve alcohol, drugs, or firearms. The solution stuff.
We
Okay?
just eliminated 1/3 of the options.
I-
It's like all
The alcohol and
solutions.
drugs I can deal with, but
I've always thought it was a great irony that there's a federal agency for firearms, alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosives.
now.
To me, that's a frat party.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
just a real good time right there.
All right, that was segment 6 for tonight, talking about surveillance. Stay tuned for next on Target Radio. We'll cover the written issues that affect your life.